Welcome to a new episode of Ain't Got Time to Read, the place where I read a story, give you a breakdown of the plot, and simply save you time. Now, before we continue, here is your spoiler alert. If you have not read the story I'm about to discuss and you do plan to read it, then you may want to avoid this video or watch it at a later date. So that being said, let's dig into the plot of today's story.
The story begins with Basil Alton introducing himself as the keeper of the North Point Lighthouse. Basil explains that every time the moon was full and high in the sky, he would see a white ship. On one occasion, he notices a bearded man wearing a robe. He beckons for Basil to join him on the ship, but Basil declines. He sees him frequently during a full moon, beckoning to him. The moon was shining brightly on the night that Basil accepted. He was surprised to find himself walking across a bridge of moonbeams onto the ship. Basil was greeted by the man, and then they sailed south. As the day dawned, they sailed past the land of Zor, where dwell all the dreams and thoughts of beauty that come to men once and are then forgotten. Basil could see the bright and beautiful land and could see its terraces and temples. They did not step on the land of Zor, as it is said that anybody that steps foot on the land of Zor can never return to his native land. Next they sailed past Thalorian, the city of 1,000 wonders. Basil could see that it was the biggest city he had ever seen, with the tallest temples touching the sky. Basil asked to enter the city, but the bearded man refused. He told Basil that the city is overrun by demons and mad things, and the streets are white with the bones of the dead. They sail past Thalorian and follow a southward flying bird whose plumage matched the sky. The next land that they passed was incredibly beautiful. Songs and lyrics could be heard and were pleasing on the ears. As they drew closer, the wind blew a horrible odour towards Basil. The smell was of plague-stricken towns and uncovered cemeteries. Sailing away, the bearded man said, "This is Zura, the land of pleasures unattained." Several days passed as they followed the bird. Eventually, they arrived at Sona Nil, the land of pleasures unattained. Basil walked across another moonbeam bridge and headed towards Sona Nil and its twin headlands of crystal rising from the sea in an arch. In Sona Nil there is no time nor space, no suffering or death, and Basil made a life for himself in Sona Nil, exploring the many beautiful lands that it had to offer, and met the happy folk. He spent many aeons there before finding himself back at the white ship. He began to feel unrest when he spotted the bird for the first time in eons. During his time at Sona Nil, many had spoken of a land called Cathuria to the west. It is known as the Land of Hope. Basil inquires about Cathuria, and the bearded man tells him that he is unaware of what lies to the west, and questions why he would want to leave Sona Nil. At the next full moon, they board the white ship and head for Cathuria. As they travelled, Basil envisioned how golden and beautiful the city of Cathuria would be, picturing all of the wonderful things that he had been told. When discussing these things, the bearded man would frequently offer to take Basil back to Sona Nil, as nobody knows what Cathuria is like. On the 31st day of following the bird, they could see the pillars of the west but could not see any further than that, as it was shrouded in mist. The bearded man asked one last time if Basil wanted to turn back, but Basil refused. They carried on forward and entered the mist. All music stopped and then the mist disappeared, and they found themselves in a swift rushing resistless sea. The thunderous sound of the sea pouring over an abyss could be heard. Basil looked at the bearded man, who now had tears rolling down his cheeks. He said, "We have rejected the beautiful land of Sona Nil, which we may never behold again. The gods are greater than men, and they have conquered." Soon after they reach the edge, and Basil closes his eyes and waits for the crash, Basil opens his eyes and finds himself back at the lighthouse, the place that he left aeons ago. He hears a crash and realises that a ship has crashed into the cliffside. He soon realises that the light in the lighthouse has failed. Inside the lighthouse, the calendar indicated that Basil had never left the lighthouse. At dawn, Basil ventured out to find rubble from the ship that had crashed, but only found a dead bird which he recognised. as it was a white oar and the same bird that had led him to the many lands he had visited on the white ship. Basil never saw the white ship again, no matter how often he looked out at the sea.
Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you at the next video.